I'd been living in that downtown apartment for about 6 months. It was a small place, nothing fancy, but it was mine. After going through a tough breakup earlier that year, I needed the peace and quiet. I worked from home doing graphic design, which meant most days I didn't have to talk to anyone if I didn't want to. Perfect for someone trying to heal and figure things out. That Tuesday started like any other. I woke up around 8, made my usual coffee, and sat down at my desk to work on a logo design for a new client. The deadline was tight, so I was completely focused on my screen. Hours passed without me even noticing. You know how it is when you're in the zone. Everything else just fades away. Around 2 in the afternoon, I heard something that made my heart stop. The sound of a key turning in my lock. Then my front door swung open. Just like that, no knock, no warning, nothing. I jumped up from my desk, my mind racing through possibilities. Had I forgotten to pay rent? Was there a fire? A gas leak? My body went into fight-or-flight mode instantly. But when I rushed to the door, what I saw confused me more than anything else. Standing there, calm as could be, was the woman from the building management office. I'd only met her once, maybe 2 months ago, when I was signing some paperwork about the lease. She was holding a clipboard and had this relaxed smile on her face. Like walking into someone's apartment uninvited was the most normal thing in the world. "Oh, hey," she said, not even acknowledging how strange this was. "Sorry to barge in. There was a maintenance request for apartment 4B, but I think the system got the numbers mixed up. You're 4D, right?" I just stood there, probably looking like an idiot, trying to process what was happening. "Yeah, I'm 4D. But you can't just walk in like that. You need to knock first," she laughed. Actually laughed. Like I'd told a joke. "Oh, I know. It's just that sometimes these emergency requests need immediate attention, and we can't always wait. Better safe than sorry, you know?" The thing was, there was no emergency. My apartment was fine. Everything was working. And even if there had been an issue, you still knock. It's basic respect. But she didn't seem to think she'd done anything wrong. What happened next is what really got under my skin. Instead of apologizing and leaving, she started walking around my apartment, just casually strolling through my space like she was on a tour. She looked at the photos on my wall, picked up a book from my coffee table, even commented on the coffee maker in my kitchen. "French press, nice choice," she said, touching it with her fingers. "Most people just use those cheap drip machines. You've got good taste." I followed her around, completely thrown off. "Thanks, but I really need to get back to work. If there's no maintenance issue, can you please leave?" She turned to look at my desk, where my laptop was still open with my project on the screen. "Graphic designer? That's so creative. What are you working on?" "It's for a client," I said, moving to close my laptop. "It's confidential." Of course, she said, but she kept looking. Her eyes scanned everything. My desk, my papers, the coffee cup with my name written on it from the shop downstairs. It felt invasive in a way I couldn't quite explain. Finally, after what felt like forever but was probably only 5 minutes, she headed toward the door. But before she left, she turned around and gave me this smile. It wasn't a friendly smile. It wasn't an apologetic smile. It was something else. Something that made my stomach turn. It was like she knew something I didn't. Like she was in on a secret I wasn't aware of. "See you around," she said, and then she was gone. I locked the door behind her and stood there for a minute, trying to shake off the weird feeling. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she was just socially awkward and didn't realize how inappropriate she'd been. I tried to go back to work, but I couldn't concentrate. That's when I noticed something. My spare key. I always kept it in a small dish by the door just in case I ever locked myself out. It wasn't there anymore. I searched everywhere. Under the couch cushions. In my jacket pockets. On the kitchen counter, nothing. It was gone. My mind went to her immediately. Had she taken it? But why would she need my spare key when she clearly had a master key to the building? It didn't make sense. I told myself I must have misplaced it. Maybe I'd moved it weeks ago and forgotten about it. But then I started noticing other small things. My books on the shelf seemed rearranged. Not by much, but enough that I could tell. I'm particular about my books. I organized them by author, and now they were slightly out of order. The chair in my bedroom was facing a different direction than I'd left it. The bathroom door was open when I always kept it closed. These were tiny details, things that most people wouldn't even notice, but I noticed. And each one added to this growing sense of unease in my chest. I tried calling the building management office to file a complaint, but it went to voicemail. I left a message explaining what happened and asking them to make sure all staff knocked before entering apartments in the future. Professional and calm, even though I was feeling anything but calm inside. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that smile, about the way she'd touched my things, about how comfortable she'd seemed in my space. I got up and checked the locks on my door 3 times. I even pushed a chair against it, which I'd never done before. The next morning I felt ridiculous. Here I was, a grown adult, scared because someone from the building management had made a mistake. I was probably just stressed from work and the breakup and everything else. I was creating problems where there weren't any, but deep down something felt wrong. Really wrong. I couldn't explain it, couldn't put my finger on exactly what it was, but my gut was screaming at me that this wasn't over. That Tuesday afternoon wasn't just an innocent mistake or a mix-up with apartment numbers. Looking back now, I wish I'd trusted that feeling immediately. I wish I'd acted on it right away instead of trying to rationalize it away. Because what I didn't know then was that this was just the beginning. That moment when she opened my door and walked in like she owned the place was the start of something that would turn my entire life upside down. Sometimes your instincts tell you something's wrong before your brain catches up. That day my instincts were screaming. I just wasn't ready to listen yet. The first few days after that incident, I tried to forget about it. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects to keep my mind busy. But the universe had other plans. Or maybe it wasn't the universe at all. Maybe it was something much more deliberate. It started 3 days later at my regular coffee shop. I'd been going to the same place every morning for months. It was part of my routine. Order a large coffee, sit by the window, and scroll through my phone for 20 minutes before heading back home. Simple, predictable, mine. That morning, I walked in and placed my order like always. While I was waiting, I felt someone watching me. You know that feeling when you can sense eyes on you? I turned around and there she was, sitting at a corner table with her own coffee, looking right at me with that same smile from before. My stomach dropped. What were the chances? This coffee shop wasn't even that close to our building. There were at least 5 other cafes between here and there. I told myself it was just a coincidence. People can like the same coffee shop. It's not that weird, she waved at me, a small casual wave. I nodded back, grabbed my coffee, and left faster than I normally would. My peaceful morning routine was ruined. 2 days after that, I was at the building gym. I usually went around 7 in the evening when it was mostly empty. I preferred working out alone. No small talk, just headphones and focus. I was on the treadmill about 15 minutes into my run when the door opened. You can probably guess who walked in. She was wearing workout clothes and carrying a water bottle. She got on the treadmill right next to mine, even though there were 6 other empty machines. "Hey neighbor," she said cheerfully. "Didn't know you worked out here." I'd been using that gym for 6 months. I'd never seen her there once. Not a single time. And now suddenly here she was, right next to me. I gave a quick nod and turned my music up louder, trying to focus on my run, but I could feel her glancing over at me every few minutes. It made my skin crawl. I cut my workout short and left after 20 minutes instead of my usual hour. This pattern continued. Everywhere I went, she seemed to appear. The grocery store on a Sunday morning. The park where I sometimes sat to sketch. Even outside my favorite restaurant one evening when I was meeting a friend for dinner. Each time she acted like it was pure chance. Oh wow, what a small world. Or I can't believe we keep running into each other. Always smiling. Always casual. Always acting like there was nothing strange about it at all. But I knew better. This wasn't coincidence. This was something else. I started telling my friend David about it. We'd been friends since college, and he was usually pretty level-headed. I figured he'd see what I was seeing. But when I explained everything, he just shrugged. "Dude, she works in your building. You probably just never noticed her before. And now you're seeing her everywhere because she's on your radar. It's like when you buy a new car and suddenly you see that same car everywhere. It was always there. You just weren't paying attention." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But it didn't feel right. "David, I've been going to that coffee shop for months. I've never seen her there, not once. And now she's there the same day, same time as me. Maybe she just started going there," he said. "Or maybe she goes at different times usually." "You're overthinking this." Maybe I was. Maybe my brain was creating patterns that didn't exist. But the feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I decided to test it. For the next week, I changed my routine completely. Different coffee shop, different workout times. I took different routes when I went out. Anything to see if she'd still show up. She did. Every single time. No matter where I went or when I went there, within a day or two, there she was. At the new coffee shop across town, she appeared on day 3, sitting at a table near the entrance. When I switched to morning workouts at 6 a.m. instead of evening, she was there by the end of the week, bright and early. I went to a bookstore I'd never been to before, in a neighborhood 20 minutes away, and guess who I saw browsing the same section? This wasn't coincidence anymore. This couldn't be. But how was she doing it? How did she know where I'd be? The anxiety started affecting everything. I couldn't focus on work. I wasn't sleeping well. Every time I left my apartment, I was looking over my shoulder, wondering if she'd be there. My home, which had been my safe space, started feeling like a trap. Then came the night that changed everything. I'd been out with David, trying to have a normal evening. We got dinner, watched a game at a sports bar, just hung out like we used to. It felt good to forget about everything for a few hours. I got home around 11, tired but in a better mood than I'd been in weeks. I unlocked my door and stepped inside, reaching for the light switch. But something felt off immediately. The air in the apartment was different. It's hard to explain, but you know how your home has a certain feel to it? This felt wrong. I turned on the light and everything looked normal at first. Nothing obviously out of place. But then I saw my desk. My journal was sitting there, open to a specific page. I always kept that journal in my desk drawer. Always. And I definitely hadn't taken it out before I left. I walked over slowly, my heart pounding. The journal was open to a page where I'd been writing about all these encounters. I'd started documenting everything, just trying to make sense of it all. Dates, times, locations. Every time I'd seen her, I'd written it down. And there, right on that page, in red ink that definitely wasn't mine, someone had written a message. "I see you're keeping track too." My hands started shaking. Someone had been in my apartment. Someone had read my private journal. Someone had left me a message. I checked the door. It was locked when I came in. No signs of forced entry. I looked around more carefully now, and that's when I noticed other things. A kitchen drawer slightly open. The closet door not quite closed. Small things that suggested someone had been here, going through my stuff, looking for something, or maybe just wanting me to know they'd been here. I grabbed my phone and immediately went down to the building management office. My anger overrode my fear. This had gone too far. I didn't care if it was late. Someone needed to explain this to me right now. The office was still open. The building manager was there, doing some late paperwork. And sitting at another desk was her. Of course she was there. I tried to stay calm. Someone was in my apartment tonight. I need to know who has keys and access to my unit. The building manager looked concerned. "What do you mean someone was in your apartment? Was anything stolen?" "No, but someone was definitely there." Things were moved. My journal was opened. Someone left me a message. She looked at me now and her expression was totally calm. Too calm. "Are you sure you didn't just forget you left it out?" "I'm absolutely sure," I said firmly. "I want to know who went into my apartment." The building manager pulled up some records on her computer. "Well, I've been here all evening. And according to our logs, she's been here with me since 6 p.m. We've been doing inventory together. There's no record of anyone accessing your apartment today." I looked at her. She met my eyes with that same smile. That knowing smile that made my blood run cold. The building manager seemed sympathetic but skeptical. "Look, I understand you're concerned. If you want extra security, we can install a camera in the hallway outside your door. Or you might want to consider getting your own security system for inside your apartment. Sometimes people feel safer with that added protection." The way he said it made me feel crazy. Like I was the one with the problem. Like I was imagining things. I went back to my apartment feeling defeated. Was I losing my mind? Had I left that journal out and just forgotten? No, I knew I hadn't, but how could I prove it? That's when my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Cameras can be turned off, but I'm always watching. I stared at that message for a long time. Someone was messing with me. Someone was inside my head, inside my life, and I had no idea how to stop them. That night I didn't sleep at all. I sat on my couch with all the lights on, jumping at every sound. My safe space wasn't safe anymore. My privacy was gone. And worst of all, when I tried to tell people what was happening, they looked at me like I was paranoid, but I knew the truth. This wasn't in my head. This was real. And it was only getting worse. After that text message, something inside me shifted. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with anger. I wasn't going to be a victim. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for the next strange encounter or creepy message. If no one else believed me, I'd have to prove it myself. The next morning, I went online and ordered hidden cameras. Small ones that looked like regular objects. A clock for my bedroom. A phone charger for my living room. A smoke detector for the hallway. I paid extra for rush shipping and spent the next 2 days setting everything up. I told no one. Not David, not my family, no one. If someone was watching me, I needed to be just as secretive. These cameras would record everything, and they'd upload to a cloud storage that only I could access. Finally, I'd have proof, but I didn't stop there. I also started researching private investigators. I knew it would be expensive, but what's money compared to your safety? I found someone who specialized in cases like mine. Her name was Rita Chen, and her website was full of testimonials from people who'd been in similar situations. I called her office and explained everything. Unlike everyone else, she didn't sound skeptical. She didn't suggest I was imagining things or being paranoid. She listened carefully and said she'd help. We met at a coffee shop. Ironically, not the one I usually went to because I was too paranoid now. Rita was professional and direct. No nonsense. I liked that about her immediately. First thing you need to understand, she said, is that people like this don't stop on their own. They escalate. Whatever's happening now will probably get worse before it gets better, but with the right evidence, we can put a stop to it. She asked me detailed questions. When did this start? What exactly happened each time? Did I have any evidence? I showed her the text message, told her about all the encounters, explained about the journal incident. The journal thing is particularly concerning, she said. That's not just following you in public. That's invading your private space and your personal thoughts. This person wants you to know they have access to you. Rita started her own investigation. She looked into the woman's background, her employment history, her social media, everything. What she found made my blood run cold. This wasn't the first time. Not even close. Rita discovered that she'd worked at 3 other apartment buildings before this one. At each location, she'd left under mysterious circumstances. At one building, a tenant had filed police reports about harassment. At another, someone had moved out suddenly, breaking their lease early. She has a pattern, Rita explained. She targets people who live alone, people who work from home, people who might not have a lot of visitors or a strong support system nearby. You fit her profile perfectly. Hearing that made me feel sick. I wasn't special. I wasn't chosen because of anything unique about me. I was just convenient, vulnerable, available. Rita also found something else. The woman had created fake social media accounts to follow me. Multiple accounts, actually. She'd been watching my posts, seeing my photos, learning my schedule. One account had been commenting on my posts for months and I'd never realized it was her. She's been researching you, Rita said. This isn't random. This is calculated. The most disturbing discovery came when Rita checked my phone. Do you ever let your phone out of your sight? She asked. I thought about it. Sometimes at the gym, I guess. I leave it on the bench while I'm using equipment. Rita connected my phone to her laptop and ran some software. Her expression darkened. You've got tracking software installed. Someone put spyware on your phone. They can see your location, read your messages, access your calendar. They know everywhere you go. That explained everything. The coincidental meetings. How she always seemed to know where I'd be. She wasn't guessing. She was tracking me like a GPS device. Rita cleaned my phone immediately and showed me how to check for that kind of software in the future. But the damage was done. For months, maybe longer, my entire life had been an open book to this person. We need to catch her in the act, Rita said. The hidden cameras you installed are smart, but we need something more concrete, something that shows clear intent and can't be explained away. We came up with a plan. I would post on social media about going away for a weekend. I'd make it look real with details about where I was going and when I'd be back. But I wouldn't actually leave. Instead, Rita and I would wait and watch. Setting up the trap felt surreal. I posted pictures of a hotel in another city, used location tags, made it look like I was really gone. I even had David post a photo of us supposedly having dinner there, which was actually taken weeks ago. Then Rita and I waited. She parked her surveillance van across the street, and I stayed hidden in a storage closet in the building's basement where I could see the monitor connected to all my hidden cameras. Hours passed. 10 p.m. became 11 p.m. 11 became midnight. I started thinking maybe she'd figured it out somehow. Maybe the plan was too obvious. But then at 11:47 p.m., my apartment door opened. On the camera feed, I watched her walk in. She wasn't rushed, wasn't nervous. She moved through my apartment like she'd done it 100 times before. Maybe she had a bag with her, a large canvas bag, and what she pulled out of it made my stomach turn. Photographs, dozens of them. Pictures of me that I never knew existed. Some were from my apartment windows. Some were from the street. Some were from inside my apartment when I wasn't home. In one, I was sleeping. In another, I was in the shower, though thankfully the angle only showed my shadow through the curtain. She started arranging them on my wall, creating a collage, like some kind of shrine, but she didn't stop there. She went to my bedroom and laid down on my bed. Actually laid down, like she belonged there. She opened my closet and touched my clothes. She went through my drawers. She even took things out of my bathroom and held them, smelling them, examining them. This went on for 20 minutes. 20 minutes of her moving through my space like it was hers. Like I was hers. Rita was calling the police, but I couldn't wait anymore. Seeing this happen in real time, watching her violate my privacy so completely, something snapped inside me. I needed to confront her. I needed her to know she was caught. Rita tried to stop me when she saw me leave the building, but I was already moving. My heart was pounding as I climbed the stairs to my floor. All the fear, all the anxiety, all the sleepless nights had built up to this moment. I put my key in the lock as quietly as I could and opened the door. She was standing in my living room, looking at the photos she'd hung on my wall. When she heard me enter, she turned around slowly. "And you know what?" She smiled. That same smile from the first day. "I knew you were here," she said calmly. No panic, no embarrassment, just calm certainty. "You didn't really think you could hide from me, did you?" I couldn't speak. I just stood there, phone in hand, recording everything. "I know everything about you," she continued, taking a step closer. "Your favorite coffee? The music you listen to when you work? How you organize your books? The way you sleep? I've been taking care of you. You just haven't realized it yet." Taking care of me? I finally found my voice. "You broke into my apartment. You've been following me. You put spyware on my phone. That's not taking care of someone. That's called stalking," she laughed. Actually laughed. "Stalking? No, stalking is for strangers. We're not strangers. I know you better than anyone else in your life. I've been here watching over you, making sure you're safe. Making sure you're okay." The police siren started in the distance, getting closer. Her expression changed slightly, but she still didn't seem concerned. "They won't understand," she said. "What we have is special. I chose you out of everyone in this building. I could have picked anyone, but I picked you. That means something." "We don't have anything," I said firmly. "You need help. Professional help." The sirens were right outside now. Heavy footsteps in the hallway. Rita appeared in the doorway first, then 2 police officers. That's when her calm finally broke. Her eyes went wide, her face changed, and suddenly she was moving. She tried to rush toward me, screaming things I couldn't even process. The officers grabbed her, but she was fighting them, yelling about how I belonged to her, how she'd been taking care of me, how I was supposed to be grateful. It took both officers to restrain her. They had to handcuff her while she was still screaming, still trying to reach me. Even as they led her out of my apartment, she was looking at me with this intensity that made me want to disappear. When they were finally gone, when my apartment was quiet again, except for Rita talking to another officer, I just sat down on my floor and started shaking. All the adrenaline, all the fear, all the anger came pouring out at once. Rita sat down next to me. "You did good," she said quietly. "You caught her. You have evidence. This is over." But looking around my apartment at those photographs on my wall, at my space that had been so thoroughly violated, I knew it wasn't really over. The legal part might be ending, but the recovery was just beginning. The hours after her arrest felt like a blur. The police took my statement, collected evidence, photographed everything in my apartment. Those pictures she'd hung on my wall became evidence bags. The officers were professional, but I could see the concern in their eyes. This wasn't a normal case, even for them. Rita stayed with me through all of it. When the police finally left around 3 in the morning, she helped me take down the remaining photos and bag up anything she'd touched. I couldn't sleep in my apartment that night. I couldn't even stay there. I ended up at David's place, crashing on his couch, finally telling him the full story. "Why didn't you tell me it was this bad?" he asked, looking shaken. "I tried," I said, "but you thought I was being paranoid, remember?" He apologized. A real apology. Said he should have listened better. Should have taken it seriously. I didn't blame him, though. How could he have known? How could anyone have known how far this had gone? The next few days were consumed by legal proceedings. I had to go to the police station multiple times, answer the same questions over and over, provide access to all my camera footage and recordings. The detective assigned to the case was thorough, which I appreciated, but it also meant reliving everything repeatedly. Then came the search of her apartment. The police got a warrant based on the evidence from my place. What they found there made everything so much worse. The detective called me in to look at photos of what they'd discovered. I wish I could unsee those images. Her entire apartment was dedicated to me. One whole wall was covered in photos, hundreds of them dating back months before I'd even met her. She'd been watching me before I moved into that building, following me, planning this. She had a timeline on another wall, detailed notes about my daily routine, my habits, places I went, people I talked to. She knew my schedule better than I did. There were receipts from places I'd been, coffee cups I'd thrown away, even mail she'd stolen from my box. But the most disturbing thing was a storage unit. The police found a key in her apartment and tracked it to a facility across town. Inside that unit were items from my apartment, things I'd thought I'd lost or misplaced over the months. A favorite shirt, some books, personal items I couldn't even remember missing. She'd been taking pieces of my life bit by bit, collecting them like trophies. There was also a journal, her journal, and reading excerpts from it made my skin crawl. She'd written about me like we were in a relationship, like I knew what was happening and was participating. She described conversations we'd never had, dates we'd never been on, intimate moments that existed only in her mind. "This is a clear case of erotomania," the detective explained. "It's a delusional disorder where someone believes another person is in love with them. In her mind, you two had a real relationship. She'd constructed this entire fantasy, and your actual reality didn't match up with it. The prosecutor assigned to the case wanted to do a full psychological evaluation. They needed to understand her mental state for the trial. I agreed to whatever they needed. I just wanted this to be over. But then Rita called with more news. She'd kept investigating, wanting to understand the full scope of what had happened. She'd found other victims, not just the ones from the previous apartment buildings. There were more. She's been doing this for over 10 years, Rita told me over coffee. Different cities, different jobs, always the same pattern. She gets a job that gives her access to people's homes, building management, property maintenance, house sitting. Then she picks a target. Rita had tracked down 5 other men who'd experienced similar things. Some had filed police reports. Others had just moved away, too scared or embarrassed to come forward. One guy had tried to get a restraining order, but she'd disappeared before the court date. Why wasn't she ever arrested before? I asked. Because she's smart, Rita explained. She knows how to walk the line. Most of what she does is technically legal until she crosses into breaking and entering, and she's good at making her victims feel crazy, like they're imagining things. By the time they have proof, she's usually already moved on to someone else. Hearing about the other victims helped in a strange way. It confirmed I wasn't crazy. This was real. This was a pattern. But it also made me angry. If someone had stopped her years ago, none of this would have happened to me. The court ordered a psychiatric evaluation, and the results confirmed everything. She had erotomania combined with obsessive-compulsive tendencies. She fixated on people she perceived as vulnerable or lonely, then convinced herself they wanted her attention. In her mind, every interaction was confirmation of mutual feelings, even when those interactions were completely one-sided or non-existent. The psychologist's report described how she justified everything. Breaking into my apartment wasn't a crime to her. It was taking care of someone she loved. Following me wasn't stalking. It was being supportive. The spyware on my phone wasn't invasion of privacy. It was staying connected. She'd rewritten reality in her mind so completely that even when confronted with evidence of her actions, she couldn't see them as wrong. To her, I was the one who didn't understand. I was the one refusing to acknowledge what we had. The trial took months to prepare. During that time, I had to live with constant security measures. I moved to a temporary apartment, changed my phone number, deleted most of my social media. I was basically hiding from someone who was already in jail, but the fear didn't go away just because she was locked up. Rita helped me find a therapist who specialized in trauma from stalking. I didn't realize how much I needed it until I started going. The violation I felt wasn't just about the physical intrusion. It was about the loss of privacy, the loss of safety, the feeling that nowhere was really safe anymore. When the trial finally happened, I had to face her again. Testify in court. Describe everything that happened. She sat there the whole time, staring at me with those same intense eyes. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she looked sad. But she never looked sorry. Her defense tried to argue diminished capacity due to her mental illness. They weren't wrong that she had serious psychological issues, but the prosecutor showed the jury just how calculated her actions were. How she'd planned everything. How she'd covered her tracks. How she'd gaslit me into doubting my own perceptions. Other victims testified too. Their stories were heartbreakingly similar to mine. The pattern was undeniable. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they came back with a guilty verdict on all counts, I felt relief wash over me. Finally, officially, someone believed me. Someone acknowledged what had happened. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in prison plus mandatory psychiatric treatment. It wasn't as long as I'd hoped, but the judge noted that with her record and the severity of the delusion, she'd likely remain under supervision even after release. During her sentencing statement, she was allowed to speak. I expected an apology, maybe some acknowledgement of what she'd done. Instead, she used her time to talk about how much she loved me, how she'd always loved me, how she knew that someday I'd understand. The judge cut her off and had her removed from the courtroom. As they led her away, she looked back at me one last time. That same smile, that same knowing look. It was finally over, legally officially over. But standing there in that courtroom, I knew the real work was just beginning. The day after the sentencing, I woke up in my new apartment expecting to feel relief, peace, something positive. Instead, I felt empty. The trial was over, she was in prison, but I didn't feel free. I felt broken. The next few months were the hardest of my life. Harder than the stalking itself in some ways, because now I had to deal with all the trauma I'd been pushing down just to survive. I couldn't work. I couldn't sleep properly. I jumped at every unexpected sound. I checked my locks constantly, sometimes 5 or 6 times before bed. My therapist explained that this was normal. That trauma doesn't just disappear when the danger is gone. Your brain has been in survival mode for so long that it doesn't know how to turn that off. Every person walking behind you on the street becomes a potential threat. Every coincidence feels like a pattern. Every stranger who makes eye contact feels dangerous. I stopped going out except for therapy and grocery shopping. I lost touch with friends because I couldn't handle social situations. David tried to help, but I could see the worry in his eyes every time he looked at me. I wasn't the same person anymore, and we both knew it. Rita checked in regularly. She'd become more than just the investigator I'd hired. She understood what I was going through in a way most people didn't. She'd seen cases like mine before. She knew the recovery wasn't quick or easy. You need to give yourself time, she told me during one of our coffee meetings. You survived something traumatic. Your brain is trying to protect you. That's not weakness. That's survival. About 4 months after the sentencing, Rita called with an idea. Have you thought about talking to the other victims? I'm in touch with a few of them. They're struggling too. Maybe it would help to talk to people who actually understand. I wasn't sure at first. The thought of reliving everything, of hearing their stories, felt overwhelming. But I was